All right, so this is a topic that I feel like honestly in the last couple of years has literally been beaten to death. But at the same time, it's still a topic that for whatever reason keeps trending. They're talking about it again on Twitter and it's been trending again. And I've had multiple people come at me and attack me for my views on this. And I think my views on this is about as middle ground as it can be, all with respects to freedom and liberties, right? I mean, okay, let's break it down, right? Vax or no vax, right? Vax or no vax, vax or no vax. I don't care. Like, that's the thing, is I really don't care. I really, truly 100% don't care if you get a vaccine or if you don't get a vaccine. If you are someone who is 100% pro-vaccination, good for you. And if you're 100% against vaccination, you're anti-vax, you're like, no way, absolutely not taking a shot, good for you. I am 100% in belief in freedom and liberty. We should not, and we are not in the United States. I understand that people view my channel all over the world. And so I had someone who got in a little bit of a disagreement on Twitter just the other day. And we had some back and forth dialogue for a little while. And I felt like I was trying to be respectful, but my stance was pretty firm. But apparently, after talking for a good while, I discovered he finally alluded to the fact, he asked me, he was like, are you in Australia? And I was like, I'm not. And he was like, well, this is what's going on in Australia. So I am not giving my commentary on what's happening anywhere else in the world, because every country is going through different things and every country has faced the pandemic differently. Every country has different policies, guidelines, governmental systems, things like that. I am purely speaking to how it is in America, because that's where I'm at and that's what I know. And that's the liberty and freedoms that I am advocating for, is the freedoms and liberties that I have here in America. Okay, people are not forced in America to get a shot. Force, by definition, means to be restrained and given that vaccine absent their approval, absent their say. That did not happen to anyone. At least not that I'm aware of. Now, if there's a rare case somewhere that someone was restrained and given the shot even though they were saying no, then okay, then that's absolutely something that needs to be dealt with. People saying that, well, their job mandating, it's not a mandate, first of all. Mandate's a political thing. There's things that are mandated within political governances and things like that, and it's not a mandate. The government should not step into this and institute their own policies regarding this. Now, companies, on the other hand, can have policies. Why? Now, see, a bunch of people quickly attacked me the other day and told me that, oh, well, then you're advocating for, I can simply tell my employee that they'll either sleep with me or lose their job, and that's okay. Absolutely not. Forcing someone to, or coercing someone into sleeping with you is absolutely unacceptable. Well, how is that any different from a shot? Okay. The difference with a shot is whether you agree or you disagree is okay, is irrelevant to this. You can agree or disagree that the shot actually reduces the likeliness of transmission. There's lots of people who believe it does. There's lots of people who believe it doesn't. I'm not advocating that it does reduce transmission. I am operating under the fact that if an employer, okay, this is my house. This is my house. I live here. I have a say who comes in my house. Now, I'm also a business owner. I don't have a building right now, but I tell you this, if I have a building, I have the right to say who comes into my building. I worked for, I earned, it is my building. Now, does that mean I have the right to say, oh, either you sleep with me or you can't come in my building? Then just don't come in my building. I don't think that's a comparable situation. But to say that I feel a level of safety issue or safety concern for myself or my family or my staff by people who are unvaccinated coming in, well, that may be completely irrational, maybe completely silly, but if it's my building, I have that right to say so. It's my building. My building. I don't owe anybody a job. I don't owe anybody employment. I don't owe anybody a thing. Now, there are discrimination policies in place that you can't say based on someone's religion, based on someone's race, creed, sexual orientation, their sex, the fact they're old, young, male, female, short, fat, skinny. None of those things. I can't discriminate on those things. Can't. But if I feel a safety concern that I need policies, there's so many businesses that don't drug test. There's lots of businesses that don't drug test. But if a company says, you know what, I feel it's a safety issue if you're under the influence, I'm going to drug test people, they have that right. Now, you have the right to refuse that drug test, but you also have the right to go seek employment elsewhere. Now, you have the right to decline a vaccination. I worked for the state of Texas in the Austin State Hospital as a psychiatric nursing assistant. I did it for 2.5 years. In my adult life, in my whole life, I had never had a flu shot. I was vaccinated as a kid. I got, the standard vaccines that, kids get. It's just normal. It's no big deal. I got those vaccines because it was the 80s and that's what, happened. And it was no big deal. It's fine. Fine. I went to public school. It's cool. Okay? Since I was a teenager, I hadn't had a shot. When I worked for the state of Texas in a medical capacity, they had policies. They literally walked down the hall and we're gonna do the hep shot, the hepatitis test, right? They're gonna inject right into the edge of your skin. They're gonna test it, circle it, see if in 2 days there's any discoloration or anything. I don't have any right to decline it. Well, actually I do. I have the right to go work elsewhere. If I want to work there, I've got to take the test. They also come down the hallway and say, hey, you know what? It's time for your flu shot. Either you tell me you've already gotten your flu shot somewhere else and show me your card, or you're going to take this shot, or you're going to go home until you take the shot. And you know what? We took the shot because we didn't want to quit. And I had never taken it. And you know what? Oddly enough, I had a bad reaction to the flu shot the first time. I did. I had a bad reaction. I ran a fever. I had a headache. I got really, really stuffy, congested. I felt like I had been hit by a truck for about a day and a half. Now, some people will say, well, that's nothing compared to what the reaction that some people are having to the COVID vaccine. Well, that's true. But it's also nothing compared to the reaction that some people had to just the flu shot. That was my reaction the first time. I had never had it before, and it made me feel miserable for a day. But a lot of people, I've known people who getting the flu shot, just the flu shot that's been around for 40 years, has put them in the hospital. It's terrible. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it happens sometimes. Some people's bodies don't react well to certain chemicals, certain medications, people just react differently. That's why they have several different forms of medications for so many different things. What's the standard thing you take for a headache? You take an aspirin, right? I am actually allergic to aspirin. I can't take aspirin. They have several different things because people's bodies are different. Most people aren't allergic to aspirin, but I am. People having bad reactions to the COVID vaccine is not a reason to say that, because some people, which statistics are out there, and the statistics are actually pretty poor results right now, honestly. They're not enough to prove anything. People don't like that, they don't want to hear that, and they don't want to think about it. But I don't care, and that makes me sound like I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm really not. I really don't care. I'm just aware of how statistics work. I spent years going to school just to understand how to conduct valid research and collect data and understand how to analyze said data. And considering this all happened in 2020 and it is now 2023, we have not had enough time. It hasn't been long enough to honestly have valid data collected to prove that this is the most effective vaccine or that this vaccine is actually dangerous. There's not enough data. But that's a side note. That's just a side note. Well, like I said, I just want to put that out there because I'm not telling you that I'm pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. I really don't care. I think it's everybody's right to choose. If you're anti-vaccine, don't take a damn shot. But if you're pro-vaccine, go get your shot, man. I think there's enough data to say that you'll be okay. But I think there's also enough data to suggest that, hey, if you're concerned about it, don't take it. At the end of the day, though, me and my business, just like Billy and his business or Suzanne and her business, if either one of them want to run their company differently than me, and Suzanne says, hey, nobody's coming into my building without getting a shot, it's her building. It is her building. It's her building. Now, some people could say, well, that's going to destroy her business because nobody will go in. Well, okay, let her destroy it. It's her business to destroy. She doesn't owe you a job. You worked for her, and somebody even brought up the thing that, well, you can't just change something in the middle of a contract. You know, you're absolutely right. But 95% of people in this country don't work under contract. They don't work under contract. They have a job. They have a job. And most people, even though, like Texas is at-will employment. At-will. It's a work state. Lots of people don't understand what that means. An at-will employment or a work state means that the state of Texas operates on the principles that everybody has a right to work, but everybody also has a right to not work. And what that means, if you break it down, is that everybody has the right to have an opportunity at getting a job. But at any given second, you can fire someone without notice, without cause, without reason. The only thing that hurts you is if you give them a reason and that reason falls under discrimination. If you don't give them a reason, you can fire them for absolutely nothing. Yo, Craig, sorry it's not working out here, man. Why, man? No, it's just not working out. It's time to let you go. Have a nice day. It's been real. Take care. There's nothing they can do about it. Problem is people get into these arguments and conflicts. They want to explain to their employees why they're being terminated. Employees want to argue about it, and then as the argument escalates, then they get into a sticky situation, and those words can be used against you in, say, a lawsuit. If you gave them no words to use against you, you can fire them for absolutely nothing. That's it. Nothing. Nothing. And see, most people, even though everywhere in the country is not a work state, an at-will employment like Texas, most companies operate under that same principle. That, you know what, you work here until you don't. But I've worked here 5 years. Yeah, you worked here 5 years and now you don't. You should say thank you for your 5 years of employment. I should say thank you for your 5 years of service. And it's been real, it's time to part ways. Go do what you gotta do. That seems cold, but it's business. It's just the way it is. It really, truly is. It's the way it is. And my priority as a business owner is self-preservation. I protect myself. I protect my family. And in order to protect my family, I've got to protect my business because my business is my livelihood. My building is my livelihood. My office is my livelihood. And if I feel like anybody puts it in danger, you're not in my office. Now, do I think someone without a vaccine is really putting other people at danger? Do some people truly believe that? Yeah. Do they have the right to believe that? Yes. Do you have the right to infringe upon their beliefs and somehow demand that they continue to employ you even though you don't want to do what it takes to keep them safe? Keep yourself safe? You know, maybe, see, and some people don't look at it as dollars and bottom line. Let's look at it as simple numbers and dollars. Because some people try to argue the idea that, well, transmission still happens. So transmission still happens. That's not what we're talking about. Maybe we're not talking about transmission. Some people are. Some people maybe not, though. Maybe some people are looking at it for simple logistical reasons. And what does that mean? I need Tommy to be here, right? Tommy's an employee I count on. He's a one-man department at my particular office, right? He handles payables, or he handles the mailroom, or he handles whatever, right? So he handles this one thing, and he's the only person who handles that one thing. COVID's going around and around and around. I'm worried about it. I've already had multiple employees that have been out. I've had to shut down my business for months while the world tried to figure out what was going on. So I implemented a new policy. I'm like, hey, we're opening back up. We're going to be open to the public again. Our staff will be wearing a mask for the first so many months, so many weeks, whatever. And they got a vaccine on the market now. We're gonna take a vaccine. Well, I don't want to take a vaccine. Well, that's your right. You don't have to take a vaccine. But in order to work here, I want to protect my livelihood by making sure that my employees have done everything they can do to be sure that they're at that desk. Because you're right, I can't terminate you for getting sick. It's absolutely ridiculous. Can't terminate you for being ill, unable to come to work. But I can implement policies that say you will do this to preserve your health, which preserves my livelihood and preserves my company, keeps my company in a good situation if you want that position. You know, athletes are required to do certain things if they want to be a member of the team. You want to be a member of this team, you got to keep your body in a certain level of shape. Well, how can you infringe upon their health and tell them what to do? Well, I can't. I can tell them they're not a member of this team if they don't meet certain standards. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I know about them. My wife watches them. My wife and my youngest son love watching with my wife. He thinks all their dancing and acrobatics are just something else. But my wife loves it. She's been watching it for years, since long before I met her. And they've got these incredibly outlandish standards almost. You know, they're not to be in relationships with players. They're actually, I think there's guidelines about relationships, period, while they're a cheerleader, so that way their personal life doesn't interfere with their ability to perform and their ability to be basically on call at any time to go to these promotional events. You're basically like living your life as a cheerleader. You have no life outside being a cheerleader. They even have weigh-ins. You have to be under a certain weight. You have to be certain slenderness, you know. If you get too thick, they release you. You're not meeting the standards. Well, how can they do that? They do. It's their company. It's their stadium. You want to come out onto our field, into our stadium, dressed in one of those outfits with the pom-poms and everything. You have to meet the standards. You want to walk into the doors of my building, sit into that office and at that desk and crunch my numbers. You have to meet a certain standards. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's not as crazy as people want to make it out to be. It's really not. It's self-preservation. I'm preserving my company. I'm preserving my livelihood. I'm preserving my business. And you have no right to mess my business up. I have the right to release you if you're causing disruption, harm, or unsafe environments for my business. And you know what? It's not a matter of your opinion if you're causing disruption. It's not your opinion if you're causing unsafe. It's not your opinion if you're not living up to standard. It is only mine, my opinion, because it's my company. I set the standards and I hire and I fire. If you don't meet the standards and requirements, then you don't work for me. Now, people want to say, well, this is unfair. No, the only way it's unfair is if I say, if If I say Brandon has to get a shot, but Stacy doesn't. If I say Mindy has to get a shot, but Bobby doesn't. As long as I have a new policy across the board, it's my new policy. It's my company. Go work somewhere else. Plain and simple. Back to that statement I said about contracts. You're right. When people have contracts, it is breach of contract to change in mid-contract. And yes, they can sue you. If you change their contract, if an employer tries to implement new policies and rules while this person's on a 2-year contract, before that 2-year contract's up, they can be sued and owe them the remainder of the money that they owe them for the contract, and they won't even have to work it out. Depending on how good of a lawyer and how good of a judge, but essentially that's the law, and that's what I would argue. But, like I said, most of us don't work under contracts. Most don't. Most people are at will employment. Like I said, as a business owner, as a building owner, as an office owner, a company owner, they have the right to preserve what they feel is reasonable. They preserve their livelihood, they take care of their staff, they take care of their family, they take care of their company. And nobody who gets in the way is right. It's that simple. Your boy's a Christian capitalist. Capitalist. At the end of the day, free market, free enterprise, that simple. Everybody has the right to build their company and run it their way. You don't like how they're running your company that you're working for, they're implementing policies that you think are unfair, unjust, or just somehow you don't like it. Build your own company, start your own business. I've known plenty of people who have. And the reality is that today, in 2023, we have more companies built right now than have ever been built in 1 year at one time. Build yours. Do better and stop being so entitled and expecting people to take care of you. Nobody owes you a job. You work hard, do good. They'll likely give you a good recommendation to go work elsewhere. During the pandemic, there was 2 companies. There's probably more, but there was 2 companies that I know of. Amazon and Cardone Enterprises. Amazon and Cardone, they literally even made public statements. They put things on Instagram and on Twitter. Come work for us. We don't care if you get a shot. We're not even gonna ask you. All we care is that you get here. And they were paying bank too. So they were thriving during the pandemic. They were growing, they were thriving, and they needed employees. There's plenty of companies that don't care. If you like the company you're at, weigh your options. If you like your company enough to compromise and take the shot, then do it. If you don't like your company enough to compromise yourself, your standards, your values, your beliefs are strong enough, your fear about the shot is strong enough, walk away, go work for somebody else who doesn't care, and do what you gotta do. All right, I hope, just let that sink in. Like I said, a lot of people got on there and called me liberal. Nah, I'm a capitalist. Not liberal, I'm a capitalist. I'm about freedom. Your freedom better never infringe upon my freedom. Period. It's your boy, I'm out.